Oh, shalom, my friends, shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder, spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And what a thrill I have to be, wait, you have to unmute, sir. You got to unmute your little unmute button so you remute and talk yourself. We have in the neighborhood with us a man who has done cabaret. What's the problem here? What? Oh, I got spittle on my, of course, I have tons of spittle on my beard. I just unmuted him. He's fine. He's fine. Now I'm lost. Now I was talking about spittle. I love talking about spittle. Let me clean some more. Temple Sons of Bitches. That's me. But it's not him. This guy had his own kind of temple. It was a temple devoted to music and the Great American Songbook and talent. It was called the Metropolitan Room, and he ran it for over a decade. Plus, he has stories to tell all about his family and his dad. And let's talk Holocaust. You can't put two Jews in a room for more than 2 minutes and not mention the Holocaust. So let's mention the Holocaust. Ladies and gentlemen, mentioning the Holocaust here with me, Bernard FURSHPAN. Shalom, Bernard.
Shalom, manishma.
Oh, tov todah. Look at this. I've got my candle ready. Oh, yes. So this is also my suppository. It functions in two different ways. But welcome. How are you? You look fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm calling you from Malta.
Malta? Wow, I like chocolate Maltas. But what are you doing in Malta?
Well, I was on my way to Israel, but my car broke down. So I ended up here in Malta.
Wait.
Actually, no, my wife is Maltese.
Oh! That's right. I married a Pekingese, so it's kind of
okay. It's, I have a story about that. Okay, so I always told everybody I have a Maltese at home. So
so what does your car breaking down have to do? You don't drive to? Can you drive to Israel?
Actually, it was a plane. The plane broke down and it landed in Malta. So we ended up staying here for a while. But we're enjoying ourselves, and you got in touch with me, and I want to thank you for the honor to be on your show.
Please, it's nothing. Thank Hashem. Hashem first, then me.
It's a mitzvah to be here.
It is
indeed.
It's
a mitzvah for me to be on your show.
And we love you for being here. So I don't even know where to start with you, but I'll start. So here's the deal. How did you become the person that you are? Like, you didn't start out to be a cabaret mogul, and you didn't start out to, well, you did start out to be the son of a Holocaust survivor. So where did things all start for you?
Well, it's funny because I talk about it in the film, the documentary. I talk about the fact that I learned survival techniques from my dad. And changing careers and jumping from one thing to another is a survival technique because I learned it from my dad. Seriously. I mean, you know, he wasn't happy here in the forest. He lived in the forest from age 10 to 13. He wasn't happy here. It was dangerous. He moved over there. And he learned me he taught me this skill that he was able to do just about anything he thought he could do without fear. So I learned this lesson from my dad, and I learned this skill from my dad, from jumping from one thing to the other. I did a lot of great things, and I did a lot of great careers. I had a lot of great careers. But it was all because
what was your first career? Right, so the numbers are so exciting. They're jumping to another place. What was your first real career?
So my first professional career was a chiropractor. I was a chiropractor.
Wow. And usually, when you're a good chiropractor, there's no turning back.
Right. And that's the problem, because there's a lot of people who want to do other things. They have other dreams, but they're afraid to make the change. You see, that's the thing. There's people who hate their jobs today. At least 75% of the population hate their job, and they're afraid of making the change, you know, and you only live once, and usually things turn out okay, quite honestly, but you're doing what you love.
But how long were you a chiropractor?
I was a chiropractor for 27 years, but I had multiple careers while I was a chiropractor.
Whoa. All right. Two quick questions. Did you give yourself a big nest egg so that when you chose no longer to be a chiropractor at all, either the other careers were set, or you could we can live for 2, 3, 4 years, no problem?
So I retired at age 50. I had one of the largest practices in New York State, but I also did marketing for chiropractors, and I sold 60,000 posters and all kinds of marketing material. But I also went around and gave keynote speeches at conventions, medical conventions as well, teaching doctors better customer service for their patients, because that was a real problem back in the 80s. You know, patients would wait 2 hours in a waiting room. It's just unheard of. You know, it's so.
Well, yeah. So
I did all of that. I did all of that, and I built a holistic center, and I really got involved in real estate. So I packed it all in, and that's when I went into stand-up comedy when I turned 50.
Oh my God, Stan, what? Well, you were a New Yorker and Jewish, so we already know what possessed you. But what gave you the thing of like, I can do this?
It's just that I've always had the confidence, and I learned that skill from my dad. I always had the confidence that no matter what I wanted to do, I could do it. It's just a matter of, it's always the same person. I'm always the same person. It's just a different style of myself. I just have to learn the lingo. I got to learn the technology. I got to, but I'm a people person. So it doesn't matter what area I go into. So here I am. I'm a chiropractor, and I'm managing talent, and I have a marketing agency in New York City. I own a marketing agency in New York City. I work for NASCAR, and I did some work for American Airlines. And then that's while I was a chiropractor, believe it or not. But I had staff members, I had crews, in all of these different departments. And but I wasn't afraid to challenge myself and to just jump in head first and know that I'm going to be okay. And just know that I'm going to be okay. And I.
So what was your first? Was it an open mic? I mean, when and where can you place yourself back in that first moment you stepped on stage? I mean, you were used to giving speeches at conventions and
but it's different.
Seminars.
Stand-up comedy, stand-up comedy is very different.
True.
I mean, you're shitting in your pants, basically. You can give a lecture, and
I just did that now. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I wore a diaper. I'm just. The thing is that I started it at Caroline's. Linda was the instructor, and then I ended up in Gotham. And when I was in Gotham, I met Jessica Curson, who I ended up actually partially managing and doing I did a pilot, a TV pilot with her. It was a reality talk show in the middle of Central Park, and Zach Braff, who's her brother, he and I were the executive producers of this, and we were trying to, to shop this show. It didn't happen, but I learned a lot from it, and I was doing stand-up with Jessica. I opened up for her, and then before I knew it, I was all over the place. And then the owners of the Gotham Comedy Club, who owned the Metropolitan Room, that was the original Gotham Comedy Club, Chris Mazzilli says, Bernie, you're great at marketing. You should take over the Metropolitan Room because you're going to run with it. And we did. We more than doubled the revenue, more than doubled the business. And my wife and I, Joanne and I, we ran it. We had a blast. You probably remember the years that we ran it. We had
Marilyn May there one time. It was some other people too. Marilyn May was 97 and still performing, by the way. She was only 96 and a half when I saw it. But no. But this is where was the Metropolitan Room? Remind everybody, where's the...
Sure, it was the original Gotham Comedy Club, which was on 22nd Street between 5th and 6th.
That's a pretty good location, not too far from the...
Great location, great location. Half a block from the, where was the Flatiron Building?
So... Let me ask, I mean, you took it on, and at that point, did you know I'm going to put my own stand-up dreams on hold, even though I guess you get to be MC a lot there, and really just because you've got this building now, you've got to showcase and keep it running and keep audiences coming in.
Right.
Was that okay? Were you okay realizing stand-up for me here, me as booker and agent, all these things here?
Right, yeah. I mean, owning and running a business in Manhattan was something I've never done before. And so, again, I never was afraid of any kind of challenge, just a matter of learning. And that's what we did. We learned very quickly. We, renovated the place and made it spectacular and gave it a great value for our customers. And we did 20 shows a week. That's 2 shows a night and 5 shows on Saturday, 5 shows on Sunday. We started, there was a phase where we were doing cabaret for kids in the morning and burlesque at night. So we had everything in between, from cabaret for kids to burlesque at night. It was
Don Wasabasco and his was it that guy?
And the monkey, yeah.
A monkey too. But here's the deal: you had to because you had the building. I don't understand why they don't keep buildings going 24/7 if you can keep them clean. If you can bring audiences, you can do something at 3:00 in the morning. Get them in there, whatever. Because you're a landlord as well as a creative producing kind of booker.
Yes.
So what were some of your favorite acts or moments when you were doing running the Met Room?
Well, when I met some amazing people, we did between the almost the decade that we ran it, we did 6,000 shows, and so from the 6,000, we had some really incredible talent come through. People that are not unknowns that are significantly talented, and I wish that they get discovered. But we also had some of the old timers that came through, and we became very dear friends. Like Peter Marshall, the host of Hollywood Squares, was a singer.
Yeah, he was on this program, not singing, but we had him on the show. Friend of the neighborhood, ding, ding, ding.
There you go. I love that. We met, everybody would come to this, people just came. We had Bon Jovi come. We had Jimmy, sorry, say it again? Fallon. Yeah, my wife is back there. She's coaching me. Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Shalom, Joanne, by the way. Yes, Jimmy Fallon, that's cool.
Jimmy Fallon would come. We would have a lot of celebrities, but you know what? They're regular people like you and I. And it was just great because everybody was the same at the club. Everybody was the same level. We all had something in common: the love of cabaret, the love of the arts, the love of live performances, and it was just a beautiful family experience for everybody.
So, what was the funniest, weirdest, worst thing or two that ever happened when you were running the club? Somebody collapsed on stage, something funny happened, somebody forgot to lift.
I'll tell you two things. I'll tell you two things that happened that was funny. Number one, one of the first acts that came in when I moved into the business, she came in from England. I can't remember her name. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, Barb. That's her first name is Barb. And
Barb Junker? Barb Junker. Yeah, yes. She's been on the program too. Friend of the neighborhood. Hold on.
So she came in and she says, "Bernie, I don't know if I can perform tonight. My back is killing me." Light bulb goes off. I'm a chiropractor, Bob. Check it. There's an in-house chiropractor at the Metropolitan Room. I fix her back. She's on the stage, jumping up and down. She says, "Bernie, I don't feel any pain. I'm, on with the show." And that's one of the funniest things that ever happened. The other thing is that we had a great staff. I loved our staff.
Can you just not refer to your genitals for a little while and talk about the people at the Metropolitan Room? I would appreciate that.
Okay, so I was just reflecting what Joanne keeps telling me, what a great staff we had. But we had great runners and and bartenders and servers and managers and the whole deal. And they loved us and we loved them. We really did. We were like family. So one night we were having a razzle dazzle. My wife and I had this drink that we never tried before, but Eddie, our bartender, says, "Hey, you got to try our razzle dazzle." And we shared it. Believe it or not, it was so strong. We shared a drink. We could not get up. Joanne and I had to wait until the whole place was evacuated, and we literally crawled to the stairs to slide down on our asses all the way downstairs to the office until we recovered from that drink. It was such a good drink. I don't know if they tried to kill us, now that I think about it. What if it had that much alcohol in it? What, didn't it just burn? Wasn't it like fire when you're trying to drink it? How could it be so strong? Well, it was so sweet. It's a very sweet and delicious drink. It's almost like a milkshake. It's a martini, but it's like a milkshake. It was so delicious that you just, guzzled it down, and before you know it, you're just
out for like. So cool. Were there any, in terms of performance though, were there any moments of either greatness or like oy that you remember from?
Well, I can't say that we had a lot of oi oi ois, quite honestly, because I think that the majority of even the amateurs that were on the stage, and we gave everybody an opportunity. Not all clubs gave amateurs opportunities. We want everybody to have an opportunity to say that they were on a New York City stage. And that's why people loved us, because we didn't discriminate or anything like that. But one of the funniest moments was Ed Asner did a run called A Man and His Prostate. And it was a very, very funny thing. And he was mimicking that he was peeing and he was shaking shokel.
Oh yeah, I know very, very well.
Good to the last drop thing. And I think people were actually peeing in their pants just looking at it. It was very funny. We had a performer who actually, God rest her soul, she passed away, but she was a terrific person. And she fell off the stage. I think that she was aging and she had no control of her body, and she just literally just fell into the crowd. Thank God she didn't get hurt. They caught her. And to me, it looked like one of those mosh pits, like rock and roll concerts. That's what it looked like. They should have passed her around, but they put her back on stage, and she did finish the show.
She finished the show, my God.
Let me tell you, these artists are so committed to their art and their audiences. They love their audiences because it's an intimate thing. Cabaret is very intimate. They love their audiences and they don't want to disappoint.
And this is the difference. Like when there are times when I'm giving a sermon at the shul, and I have fallen off the bima, nobody catches me. They look, he dropped again.
Because they're busy looking at their books. They're looking at the books, they're reading, they have their glasses on.
That's right, yeah. Let's go with that.
It's nothing to do with you.
But here's the question. It was even before the pandemic, I think, that you chose or whatever to no longer, unfortunately, the Metropolitan Room is not the Met Room anymore. It's not a cabaret. What happened? Why'd you stop?
Well, we didn't intentionally want to stop. The landlord more than doubled our rent when it expired because we were killing it. We were busy every night. Hundreds of people were coming in and out of that door. And he was converting the building into condos. It was an office building. Then it was all condos. And then people were complaining that, it was loud. So Peter Levy, God bless his soul, was going to partner up with me to open up a big cabaret space that was going to also have classrooms, and we were going to make it a center for cabaret artists where they can meet and convene and have meetings and learn and study and perform. It was going to be a big deal, but we couldn't find a space, and he eventually, I think he moved. The whole thing is that it kind of fell apart, and I was kind of thinking about myself as well. Do I really want to sign a 15-year contract when I'm really retired? And I did it. It was fun, and and we ended it at a high note, and I felt good about that. And that's
what was the last show there? What was the last performance at
the last performance, if I recall, was two impersonators, and I can't remember the name of the show. But it was a wonderful, very, very high-end show that people just loved. And then that was the last show. And I remember it was September, the end of September, when we closed up. And it was a big crowd because it was we closed the club. We made it into an event. So I gave a speech and a few other people spoke. And then we literally stood outside, like hundreds of us, as we closed the gate, as the gate came down. And people were just sobbing. And we were crying. And I got to tell you, Joanne and I were just talking about, we do miss it. I have the ability to move on and get to the next project, but we do miss it. We made a lot of great friends, and we made a lot of people happy, and that's what life is all about, my friend Dave. When you make people happy.
Sal, excuse me, I'm Sal, not Dave, but yeah.
Sal. Yeah. So what's with the Daves?
It's his show. I just come on here and do this kind of stuff and do sermons and castigate people who are anti-Israel. That's my thing.
Sorry about that. Sal.
So what was your next step after, because the Metropolitan Room ended about almost a decade ago at this point. So what's...
About 7 years.
7 or 8 years ago. So what's been your next step?
So the pandemic hit, and I had 6,000 artists on my roster. I moved on to the Triad Theater. They wanted me to run it, and I said, no, we're not really interested in running it, but I'll bring my acts here. And that's what we did. We brought our acts there, and the place is really busy now. And other bookers also got excited about, bringing in a lot of acts too, and so the place is doing very well. So I was involved with that. My son, Jonathan, has been the videographer at Metropolitan Room, and he brought his equipment there, and that's what he does. But
you have a big staff. He has the equipment. So like father, like son. Yes.
Exactly. And the pandemic hit.
Right.
And so what I did was I opened up a TV studio in Long Island City called Metropolitan Zoom. So Metropolitan Room to Metropolitan Zoom. And we had big TV screens with hundreds of people watching the performers. And we were charging tickets just like a regular cabaret. We had a beautiful set. We had great equipment. And we were live streaming shows. And people bought tickets to see it. And it was hugely successful for about a year and a half. And then things, got better for performers. And they got back on stage. And we closed shop. I brought all that equipment to the Southampton Cultural Center, where I opened up a school for young people to learn how to run a TV studio. So I dived in headfirst into a whole nother area, and I had people supporting me and teaching me. And we ran a beautiful TV studio that's still existing today, that trains college and high school students broadcast journalism. So it's a wonderful thing. And then, of course, during the pandemic, I dove deep into my father's story, the Holocaust story. Yep. And that's the connection right there. And my sister-in-law told me, hey, you seem very angry about what happened. There's a good outlet for you. There's a museum up in Glen Cove. Maybe you should talk to them. And that's how I got involved.
So getting involved in the story of your father, what was his name? Mr. Furspan, but
Moshe.
Moshe, that's Jewish. And he was born in Poland?
He was born in Poland, which is now the Ukraine. That part of Poland, which is now Ukraine.
Well, Russia, depending on how the war goes. But we'll see.
This is true.
So he was born, and I guess in the 1920s or maybe 10s. How old was he when?
No, he was born in 1931. So he was 10 years old.
Yeah.
He was 10 years old when the Nazis entered his village. Because remember, Russia occupied that for 2 years. Russia occupied half of Poland when Hitler invaded Poland in 1939.
So at that point he was safe, and as soon as Russia left,
Russia, they retreated, and they told the elders of my father's little village of 1,500 people, "You better come with us. They're going to kill you." "Well, they're going to kill us. They're not going to kill. We've been through this before." And so they had a welcoming committee for the Nazis.
No,
they did.
No,
it's true. They had 3 people with food and money and wine as the Gestapo were the first to enter in their motorcycles, and they executed them right on the spot and arrested all the Jews in the village. So they had no idea what they were up against.
And the descendants of that welcoming committee are the kids, the Jewish kids in the tents who are in universities now protesting.
If they're alive, if they're around. Only 30 people made it out alive from that village. My dad was one of them.
So first of all, where was your dad's mom and dad, and did he have siblings, or what happened with that?
So there was it's a family of 8. My father had a 4-year-old brother, a sister, other brothers, and parents. So it was a family of 8, and my dad was the only one that made it out alive. They killed them all. They shot him in the head.
So how did he was the only one who went to the forest?
Yeah, so my grandfather told me, so when he heard the shots, rang out, when the Nazis came into the village, my grandfather advised my dad to go watch a cow of this Protestant farmer. And the Protestant farmer could have been a collaborator, he could have been a bystander, but he was an upstander. He told my dad to go run to the forest and hide and never come out. And he'd lived there for 3 years. Somehow he managed to get
How? I mean, was he just living on nuts and berries and what?
Right, so he was living on berries, mushrooms, and tree bark. And once in a while, if there was a carcass, like a rabbit carcass, he would eat that. He would also go to the farms surrounding the woods and steal, vegetables, potatoes, whatever. But he was pretty much by himself.
For 3 years. Was he ever suicidal? Did he ever say, this is never going to end and I might as well kill myself now?
Not at all, not at all. He said he was very stoic about everything. He was he was like a hunted animal, so his senses were really keen and listening in. And at night especially, that's when they hunted down the Jews. They were hunting them down at night because they were with their German shepherds who could sniff them out, because they were hiding in the ground. They would dig a ditch and cover themselves with leaves. And so that's when they would hunt them down at night.
So how did he elude being sniffed out by dogs?
So there was one night when he was sleeping with a mother and a baby because he stole food from a farm and he gave it to the mother so she can create breast milk. And so he slept with her, and that night the Germans were coming through with their German shepherds.
As opposed to Polish shepherds, yeah. Yeah.
Right, and the baby started to cry. So
yes,
and then so the mother had to make a choice, which millions of mothers had a very bad choice and an awful choice. And she took my father's hand and she forced him to silence the baby, and he lived with that guilt his entire life.
So it's literally like the MASH episode, like the very last MASH episode where the chicken's crying on the bus and it's not a chicken. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. But anywho, so he literally, wait, so your father killed a baby?
She made a child silence a child. That's what she did.
So he suffocated the kid?
Yeah. That's what millions of Jews had to do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not pointing a finger.
But it happens in every genocide where people are in hiding and babies are crying. They had to make a choice everywhere, even in the Rwanda. Genocide in Syria, everywhere there's a genocide, people are in hiding, and if there's a baby, they're all in trouble. The baby's in trouble for sure.
So he survives.
It's sad that we're not protecting children this way in the world. It's just crazy.
And so let me. By the way, when you say his whole other family, they were all shot when the Nazis first came in, or were some in camps, or
so
what?
for a full year, they were all they imposed upon all of the Jews in the village to work every day. They forced them to build a road. After a year, they're all skinny. They're all skin and bones because they fed them like 2 slices of bread a day. That's 300 calories a day. You can't live on that. After a year, they marched them into the forest and shot them in the head in a big ditch.
Right. Yeah. By the way, you're watching Dave's Gone By with me, Rabbi Sol Solomon. We're here with Bernie FURSHPAN, having so much fun. So how did, there was a Japanese guy, a Japanese soldier, who was hiding in the Japanese forest, and he wasn't, found until the 1970s.
Right.
And he didn't even trust people were coming after him to kind of bring him home. It's like, oh, the war's not over, it's a trick. How did you...
It's amazing that there's no laundromats in the forest. He couldn't. He had the same. Just imagine, he had the same underwear for all those years. So
actually, so do I. I can't afford new ones. So it's falling apart. It's colors that aren't seen in nature.
Are you sure you're a rabbi?
I play one on TV. But let me ask you: how did your father find out that suddenly the war was, or the Nazis were retreating and so forth?
Well, again, the Russians come back. The Soviets come back. And he told me that they didn't come running out when the Soviets came. They didn't trust anybody. Yeah. After 3 years, they were all like animals. They lived like animals, so they didn't trust anybody. But eventually they came out, and the Russians would put food and clothing on the outskirts of the forest, and slowly they trusted them. It's almost like putting milk, a bowl of milk for a stray cat. Eventually they trust you.
This is what my wife does with a bowl of borscht. If I've been traveling in something and I'm afraid to go, I don't know her mood, I don't know. But if there's a little bowl of borscht by the door, I'm like, oh, it should be all right.
She understands. She knows how it works.
She does, yeah. So
a stray husband.
So now he's basically, as you said, been living like a wild animal for 3 years. But he meets civilization again, if you will. How does he get back? It's not like, let me just get a corporate job, and I'll be fine. What happens to him in the transition?
The Jews, look, let's be honest. The Jews could not go back to where they came from because, first of all, their villages were destroyed. Most of the people were killed. He ended up in a displaced persons camp in Munich after the war. He was 14, 15, and he decided to go to Israel, and that's where he ended up in Israel.
Right, and this would have been, was it, quote unquote, Palestine at that point, or did he go before it was,
It was Palestine. It was
was
well
still-
before Palestine. And he fought in the Independence Day War, too, also in 1948, yeah.
Yeah. So how long did he stay in Israel? Were you born in Israel? Because you have a little bit of an
I was
accent.
born in Israel. I have an accent.
A little bit.
So
Abyssal. Yeah.
I was born in Israel with my twin brother, and we were there until age 6, and that's when they brought us to Brooklyn, New York.
Brooke, of course you went to Brooke. Well, why did you guys leave Israel? Why did you choose to come to America?
Well, they never really were transparent about why they brought us. They always said they gave us opportunities, but I think that, look, let's be honest. They were sick of the war. It was dangerous to live even in Israel because of the wars, because we would have to grow up and serve in the military. They didn't want to lose us too. They had enough of loss, I think. That's my interpretation of. That's what
Israel would be such a wonderful place without the Arabs in it. I'm just throwing that out there, but
the Arabs in it are okay. They live nicely with the Jews there. It's the ones outside. It's the ones around surrounding Israel that's the issue. So, I mean, look, we go to Arab restaurants all the time in Israel, and they serve in the military, and they're in the Knesset. But we're talking that's a whole political.
That's all political. We won't go there. But so come. You're 6 years old. You come to America, and your father and whatever, and your twin brother. I know you. How's he doing?
He's still practicing. He's a psychologist. Yeah.
Well, I hope he practices until he finally gets it right. He shouldn't be examining people's heads if he hasn't gotten it correct yet. But okay, so was it? You were so young; it probably wasn't culture shock to come to the U.S., or was it? For you,
I do remember that I did not know a word in English, and I was thrown right into first grade, and I was a little lost and confused, quite honestly. But I remember by the second grade, I felt pretty normalized, in America. I felt this was a place for me to be, but I did miss Israel. I remember even as a young kid, I missed Israel. I always wanted to go back, but my wife and I, we go back a lot. We go back at least once a year. Good.
Make it twice a year, double aliyah. You need to do this.
Okay.
So how did, your story is it's not yours, it's your father's story, but it's kind of telling on you as well. How did that go into becoming the movie, which I haven't even mentioned at all? I Am Bernie Furspan. So what? Yeah.
So when I delved into my father's story, I got involved with the Holocaust Museum in Glen Cove, and I was thrown in front of students to tell my dad's story. They liked what I did, and I became one of the top docents there. And then they put me on the board, and I'm the vice chairman of the museum. But I'm also the marketing director, because that's my little niche there, and as well as a podcast producer. So we built a beautiful TV studio. Again, this is the third studio I've built, and we're doing some great podcasting. It's called HMTV.
HM stands for what? Holocaust Museum?
It's no, actually, the Holocaust Museum is called HMTC, which is the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. And so I opened up the studio calling it HMTV. HM would represent Humanity Matters TV.
Nice. Yeah.
So
are all your programming devoted just to the Holocaust, or is it more broader Jewish themes?
It's much more broader. It's not all negative. It's very positive. It's about bringing local heroes, about what they're doing, the mitzvahs they're doing, and the upstanding things that they do. But also we have 20 hosts who do their own series, including historians and educators and things like that, to talk about specific subjects. People from the United Nations. Rabbis, and we have
good. Need more rabbis. Yeah, I'm available. By the way, if
good to know.
Yeah, I can do a show.
You'll have to come out to Glen Cove.
Glen Cove, I'd be proud to. So let me ask you. A lot of people when they come through trauma like that, in terms of your dad, I'm talking again. The family ask him, or the kids ask him about. People ask him, I don't want to talk about it. I lived through it. Was your dad like that, or was he like, because you're telling his story, he obviously told you his story. Did it take some time for him to share it, or was he like, no, I'm going to tell what the Nazis did and blah, 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 blah?
So most of the survivors didn't speak for about 40 years. They really did not want to talk about it. They wanted to move on until films like Shoah and Schindler's List, and then the museums opened up. They realized that they better tell their stories because they're going to be.
And they go, yeah.
And so when I was a teenager, my parents started opening up and telling us the stories. So the stories, like one story that I told you is my mom told me what my dad went through because he couldn't talk about it. He still couldn't talk about it. But my mom told me the stories because she didn't want that story to disappear.
Well, what was her story? She's, I guess, American, or because she didn't meet him until he came back, or what was her?
No, my mother was also in Israel, and she also was a survivor, but she didn't actually see the atrocities that my dad did. So what happened was, my dad was on the eastern side of Poland in a village, and most of those little villages, those shtetls, really, it was all hearsay about the Nazis, but those that lived on the border, on the other side of Germany, knew exactly what was happening. So my mother was on that side of Poland. And when the Nazis crossed over the border, September 1st, 1939, my grandmother picked up her 4 little kids and put them on a train to go to Russia, 1,400-mile journey. So my grandmother gets off the train to get food for her kids. My mother was only 2 years old. And she comes back and the train is gone with the kids. And it took my grandmother 5 years to find the 4 kids. And my mother ended up in a Christian Russian orphanage. And she found her at age 7. And my mother didn't recognize her own mother, but she had papers to prove that it was her daughter. Somehow, I don't know how she did it, how she found all 4 kids. I have no clue. This is something that I got to find out.
Is your mom still with you? I mean, can you?
Both my parents are gone, and on my mother's side, we had a couple of aunts and an aunt and a couple of uncles, but they're all gone. And my cousins really don't know too much of the story, so I have to do some investigative work.
It sounds like your mother's story is about as interesting as your dad's too.
It's like a script of a film. It really is. It's just an incredible story that people. Yeah. Will do anything to survive. That's really people.
Oh, please! You don't want to know the things I did on 42nd Street too. But anywho, here's a question for you. The movie is I Am Bernie FURSHPAN, right? But it's not. I assume I haven't seen it. Unfortunately, I want to. But is it all talking head, or what kind of footage or documentation or visuals went into the movie to tell the story? What do you have that documents what happened?
Right. So go to whoever's listening and yourself, you can go to iambernie.com and you'll see the trailer. And pretty much sums it up. They followed me for a week with a whole crew. So the filmmaker basically witnessed one of my testimonies about my father's story, and she comes up to me. She says, I got to do a documentary about your story here. I said, okay, we'll talk about it. But anyway, she talked me into it. We ended up doing it. She followed me because I probably speak at more schools than anybody else. I'm always in an auditorium speaking to students almost every day during the high season, usually in the springtime. And so she followed me to the schools, followed me home, followed me in the car, interviewed me everywhere, and then followed me at the museum, giving the tours. And so that's pretty much, that was it. She asked me questions. It was a lot of me speaking at different...
I was also wondering if they had any things from your physical things like from the 30s or clothing or because your father lived in a forest. He's not going to have paperwork. Right. He's not going to have, No,
there's nothing that I had that... the only one thing I had that he did not have in the forest, but he was given after the war, was a photograph of his mother when she was young. I have no other photographs of any other family members. I have no clue what they look like. So
what did you learn or feel about yourself and your family from doing the film? Because you learned the stories in your teens when your father started opening up, your mom started opening up, and then you've been talking and giving these lectures. Did having the cameras follow you for a week and then watching the finished movie, was there anything you learned from that process that you didn't already know?
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself. That I'm doing God's work. I know it's important to keep the stories alive, but I had no idea how much impact I have on students because they filmed hundreds and hundreds and thousands of students reacting to the things that I said. and they were all very engaged. And I've been on CBS and NBC and Fox, and I've been on most of the networks and the local TV, and they report about the things that I do, and it's nice, but I'm not doing it for that. But apparently I'm doing a good job. That's the point. And I did not realize that I'm doing a good job, but I'm proud to say I'm doing a good job, and I'm going to continue doing it until I can't do it anymore, and that's it.
So what do you do, though, as was the vice chair of the museum, of the Holocaust Museum out in Glen Cove? What do you do when I'm sure you are confronted with young people who tell you, oh, look, there's a Holocaust museum. The Holocaust was terrible, what they did to the Jews. Why are the Jews doing that now to Gaza? How do you respond to the equation of what happened in Gaza or is happening to the word genocide?
We have to see, the whole point of educating young people is to make them more better critical thinkers, to not just be obedient to whatever's out there. Not to be deceived by misinformation and disinformation. So that's the whole point, is not just to fight back and say, oh, it's all a big lie, because then we come across too defensive. Oh, it's a lie, it's not true, we're not killing babies, don't you know, you get the facts. We have to make them better critical thinkers and realize that social media is not a news outlet. They really do need to investigate and understand the history, the factual history of the Jews in that land. We all know. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Everybody knows the history of the Jews. Jesus Christ was Jewish. King
There
David
was a Jesus, but yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, but the point is that, and what I'm saying is that they lived in the land of Judea. Where did this word come from? They lived in the land of Judea. David slew Goliath. Everybody knows this story. He built a city for his nation. This is their homeland. For 2,000 years, Jews were singing at the end of Passover Seder. Next year, back in Jerusalem, our homeland. We said it for 2,000 years. And so it's not like Israel is an entity since 1948. It's been around for thousands of years. We all know this. Wake up and just remember. It's not something that we have to educate. Just remember the facts. Don't cover it with nonsense. People are being brainwashed so quickly, and this is one of the lessons of the Holocaust, that we are so fragile that people are easily manipulated and lied to, and sometimes even coerced to do bad things. And that's what's happening today. So we're seeing people being obedient to some kind of ideology that is false. It's built around a lie. And they're obedient to it. And so, like we're trying to say to people, come on, enough is enough. Would you just wake up and realize that there's no room for it on this tiny little planet that's floating in the middle of the universe. I mean, we have a little soil here that we all share. Can't we be a little nicer to each other? The fact is, I tell kids all the time, it's a scientific fact. It's genetics. It's not religion. It's not anything else. It's a scientific fact genetically that every person on this planet is somewhere between your 15th and 50th cousin. It's always a family reunion anytime you bump into anybody. So you have to look at people from that point of view. We're kin. We're not enemies.
Yeah.
And so
this is why I'm only 4 degrees from Kevin Spacey. I blew the joke. Well, what's the guy's name? I blew the goddamn joke. I was so captivated.
But it's actually very funny. What you said was very funny. You're a very funny guy. You take a very serious and heavy subject and you lighten it up. So
I do, don't I? I'm so good. But let me tell you, Bernie FURSHPAN, also, how do I wish I could just twist and manipulate and torture people to do good. This is my goal in life. If I could just, in my way, just turn people from the stupidity that they have, and even if I have to lie to them and hurt them, and that's okay by me. But yes, to do good and to make, as you say, this little soil that we're on, that we're all trying to share, and we don't destroy with pollution and stuff. Just, I share with you, you share. You don't hurt me, I won't hurt you. You don't have to love me.
We share the same air. I breathe out the air that you breathe
in.
I
know. I smell it. Maybe a claret.
It's awful. I got to say. Let's be honest. But we have to look at it from a broader perspective. And unfortunately, it only happens to astronauts who go up in space. Like the 5 women that went up into space. They say, "Oh my God, what a transformative experience!" As you're looking at the planet, you realize, "Oh my God, we're all sharing this tiny little thing that's floating in the middle of nowhere. Why are we fighting?" They all ask the same question. Why are we fighting with each other? You see, we all need to get out of the mud. and stop the blame, stop throwing sticks at each other. What happens is, and it's been happening for thousands of years, I hit you, you hit me. I hit you back, you hit me back. I hit you back, you hit me. It just never ends. We got to stop all of this. This is just my philosophy. And just pull back, catch your breath, and realize we're all related. Let's all do this together. Let's share this planet in a nicer way. Unfortunately, it's easier said than done, obviously. There's always these ideologies and psychopaths who just constantly promulgate, hatred. And the majority of people, 99% of the people, are good. Unfortunately, they're easily manipulated, because that was proven in the 1930s in Nazi Germany. Good people. German people were very industrious. Jews were part of the culture. They were part of the fabric. They were generals. They were in the government. They were in medicine. But good people were convinced and lied to do bad things, and that's what's happening again today. So we didn't learn the lesson of the Holocaust. That's the problem.
And it happened to a lesser extent in the 1950s when everybody was afraid of communists.
Right.
And people will say it's even happening today when people are afraid of immigrants.
Right.
Like, oh my God, no students in Harvard should be from another country. It's like, wait, come on, no, pick and choose. Get the Israeli students into Harvard. Harvard's grades will go way up. Anywho, we've been talking with Bernie FURSHPAN. Is it BernieFurshpan.com was the website you mentioned? Bernie?
I am Bernie.
I Am Bernie's the movie.
So the movie is actually The Weight of Memory. I am Bernie FURSHPAN. And so the website is just IamBernie.com.
IamBernie.com. For the movie itself, do you have a separate website for you, or is that your whole gestalt thing?
I'm all over the place. You just look me up and you'll find me everywhere.
So where can we find your movie? Because it's still, just individual screenings, and they bring it to this museum.
Right. So
where
we
can
just
we see the thing?
we just signed a contract with a distributor. So it's going to be on Hulu, Amazon, Apple, and hopefully on Netflix within the next few weeks. So
Oh, good. Yeah. I desperately want to say, I think everybody watching this interview with Bernie FURSHPAN wants to see this movie, and wants to share even the chat that we just had, because it's just been so fun and deep and dark, and all the good things that you want from an interview. Last question for Bernie FURSHPAN before I let you go. I assume you're here on Shabbos. You're not religious per se, but how do you relate to Judaism? What's Jewish about you?
Well, Judaism is not just a religion; it's a culture. It is a culture. It's a way of life. It's a way of looking at things. It's a way of being kind to others. There's a lot of great values that this culture teaches the world, and contributes to the world in a huge way.
Yes.
And then I wonder, is this envy? Are people envious of the fact that we're kind to other? What are they envious about? Just be kind. It's so easy to be kind. It's so easy to push your kids to do well in school. All of these things are part of the culture. It's just learn about Judaism. You don't have to be a Jew, but learn about the culture and see the things that we've done. Even during the bubonic plague, many Jews did not contract the plague because they washed their hands before they entered the house. It's part of the culture. So there's a lot of things that we contribute via this culture, not just the religious aspect.
It's the big emotional and spiritual and intellectual things, all the way down to washing your hands or Ed Asner's prostate. All of them Jewish in a beautiful way. Speaking of Jewish and beautiful, we've been talking with Bernie FURSHPAN. I wish you much success, certainly with the museum, and you'll probably have 3 more next steps over the next 20, 30, 40 years. Probably. I hope they're wonderful. I hope you will stay in touch. I'm looking forward to seeing your movie, and I'm wishing you a great, good, healthy, and wonderful shalom.
Wonderful. Saul, do me a favor. Just go to the website, IamBernie.com, and watch the trailer when you have a minute.
I've seen the trailer. That's why I want to see the movie.
You'll see the trailer. You'll get the idea.
IamBernie.com, everybody. IamBernie.com.
Thank you for having me on your wonderful show. You're a terrific guy.
Thank you so much. Chai and shalom to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, my friends. My goodness, what a fantastic conversation, despite me. What a wonderful conversation with Bernard, a.k.a. Bernie FURSHPAN. Go wait for you. A couple of weeks ago, God willing, be on Hulu, Netflix, and all those places. Check out the website, IamBernie.com. Bernard Furshpan, making me so proud to wear this and this and this and these, and to be Jewish in 2025, when it has not been a wonderful time in a lot of ways to be Jewish in 2025. I, by the way, am Rabbi Sol Solomon. You can find out more about me by going to shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. You'll read my sermons and hear them too. You can watch my stage show, which unfortunately I never did at the Metropolitan Room. I should have. It's called Shalom Damn It, An Evening with me. I also did a TV program called Shalom Damn It, Rabbi Sol Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour. All the episodes are at shalomdammit.com. Please do check them